Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Football War Room podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me I have Nick.
How's it going, everybody?
Frank.
Hey now.
Chris.
Pronto.
And welcome back, Sammy.
I can't go out like that. I hear all that talk, but my pride won't allow me to do it. There aren't 32 guys out there better than me.
Cam Newton.
Yeah.
You got it, Cam Newton. Talking about retiring, man. People are saying, is this it for Cam? And he's like, nope. There aren't 32 guys out there better than me, and I believe him. I think he's still got he still has what it takes for sure.
I could probably name 50, but whatever.
Not really.
I mean, he only threw 8 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, but look at the weapons he had at his disposal. Come on. I mean, Julian Edelman.
I don't think
that's it. That's it.
And he only had him for half a year.
Exactly.
Anyways, at least we got one. That's good. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Playing.
You guys ready for this episode? We're starting our wide receivers.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's get into it.
I'm hyped. I'm hyped for some of these discussions.
He's all
I'm
prepped.
ready to go.
We have to bring Sammy
Good.
in for the wide receivers. He's an expert now.
You got it.
All right. Well, let's get into what we really came here to talk about, our rookie wide receivers. At number 15, Amundra St. Brown. Coming out of USC, 6'1", 195 pounds. In his career there, he finished with 2,270 yards, 16 touchdowns. What do you guys have on Mr. St. Brown?
Yeah, Ahmed Rao, he was a 5-star recruit coming into college. His 2020 season was cut short due to COVID, but he actually still led all the Pac-12 wide receivers in receptions with 41 and touchdowns of 7. So that's pretty good considering that the season was cut short. Another big thing about Ahmed Rao was on his 3 years, I believe, with the team, he had an over 23% target share, and his dominator rating was 33.1%, which is pretty decent for a wide receiver, and a rating that you want to have where he's pretty much 30% of the offense. Big strengths for him. He's quick feet and separation, so he can get off the line of scrimmage real quick. He can set up defenders and take away the spots that he needs to make the plays and extend plays. He's great in the open field, so he understands where the coverage is and he understands how to get around those defenders and break away from them. He has good ball tracking. His route running and his field awareness is very, very good. Another big thing is that he's a run blocker as well, or a rush blocker. And basically, he's in it, the play, 110% of the way. So if your team's running, he's still going to run with them and help them out. He isn't giving up on a play if the ball's not coming his way. That's a really good feature for wide receivers these days, so it's something good to look at. A few negatives that I had for him, he had some issues with some drops, but I mean, that's an easy fix if he just concentrates more. And he's actually just a little slow on his 40 time. He clocked in at about a 4.87, so it's a little slow for a wide receiver.
It's a lot slow.
It's a little slow, but he definitely makes up with it in the jukes and the separation area where he's getting around these people. So I see him as a day 2 type of pick probably. As for the wide receiver wise in fantasy, maybe he's in the second tier of wide receivers, really lower ends. But other than that, I can see him having a decent year depending on what team he has, but he'll probably take a few years to develop and get into that starting rotation.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, I think we got him pretty low at number 15. I think he's got a chance to break out of this draft class and be one of the best. He came in at 19 years old as a true freshman, and he went into a crowded room that was stacked. It had Tyler Vaughn, Michael Pittman in it, and he immediately produced. If you take his fresh numbers and you compare him with Michael Pittman's that year, he was just 8 yards behind Pittman for the team lead as a true freshman. Like you said about his dominator number and his target share, he's been a huge part of that offense, even with all those guys in there. And even he was even in He was even involved in special teams. He ran back 2 touchdowns. So he's kind of, it could be a kind of a gadget guy. He's got that speed and that just natural athleticism to just be very useful to any team that can find a way to get the ball in his hands. Like you said, he was measured at 4'6", 4'6", and that was at 18 years old, right before his freshman year. So hopefully he improved on that, just being in the weight room at USC. We don't know for sure now because we don't got the combine, so we'll have to look pretty carefully at his pro day. Some negative things I saw, he was a little bit slight for his frame, which could give him some problems going head-to-head with NFL defenders. But he's got the talent and the speed and the toughness to do something special in the NFL. In my opinion, by the end of his career, just like the Egyptian deity, whatever city he ends up in, they're going to be erecting statues of him.
Wow, that's high praise.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Is he better than his brother?
Oh,
I think
for sure.
so.
Yeah,
I think he's said to be probably one of the better of the 3 brothers, actually. Yeah.
I don't think
Really,
Equinemius was. Equinemius is all right, but I don't think he's at Ahmed Rao's level. Just a natural talent.
I remember hearing about him last year. I was doing some Devy drafts, and that was the first time I heard about him and looked up about him. He was actually a lot ranked higher. He was ranked in the top, I think it was top 6 wide receivers last year for Devy. He went down a little bit this year based off of, I'm sure, with the COVID situations and all this stuff, whatever. So, but definitely a name to look out for. You could probably get him later in your drafts. We'll see where he goes. Again, the situation is going to be a key depending on which wide receiving core he joins in the NFL, but he's definitely a name to remember. Let's go to number 14, Sage Surrett out of Wake Forest, 6'3", 215 pounds. He finished with 1,582 yards and 15 touchdowns. What do you guys have on Sage?
If Sage hadn't opted out the past season, there's no doubt that he would probably be a little higher on our list here. He was a record breaker in high school in both basketball and football, so he's a multi-sport athlete. He was originally committed to Harvard, at which point he wanted to focus a little bit more on football, and he liked the business program at Wake Forest, so he went to Wake Forest. He flashed in 2018 before his breakout year in 2019. In that breakout year, Sage put up 1,006 yards, 11 TDs, and only 65 catches in 9 games. So just in comparison, one of this year's top-ranked wide receivers, Jamar Chase out of LSU, in his 14 games played in 2019, he put up 1,780 yards, 20 TDs on 84 catches. So if Sage was to play those 5 extra games, there's no doubt that he would be mentioned in the higher echelon of our wide receivers here. He does lack that little bit of top-end separation speed. He did miss those 4 games due to a shoulder injury. So that's going to affect his draft stock a little bit. You can definitely see where his basketball background transfers to the gridiron. He uses his size and knowledge of body positioning to box guys out and create leverage to win contested balls, which will make him an asset, a real good asset in the red zone. He has a modest athletic profile, and like I said, his lack of elite separation, quickness, and long speed is really going to limit his ceiling at the next level. His ADP right now sits around late rookie 3rd, early rookie 4th value, which is right where he should be. Given the opportunity, Sage can be successful in the NFL as a low-end wide receiver 2 to a high-end wide receiver 3 depth piece. He's a big X-slot receiver who will win balls in the middle of the field. That is really going to be his bread and butter in the NFL, and that's what's going to get the man paid his money.
Yeah, you know what? When I think of Sage, I think of a lot of those things. What I don't think is super fast. I don't think crazy elusive. I don't think big highlight reel kind of wide receiver. But I do think size, strength, solid hands, right? So, he's going to be that guy when you throw up the 50-50 balls, it actually becomes a 90-10 ball in your favor, right? Because he's going to come down with it. He's a big dude. He can definitely, he's got physicality when he plays. A lot of those smaller DBs are going to have problems because he's going to muscle them out. And I think that, he's got a really good football IQ. He runs clean routes. And, he knows where the ball's going to be and he knows how to get there. And if you can get it in the right spot, he'll bring it in. He's got those sure hands. Fantasy-wide, I think from a fantasy perspective, he's got some good upside. Chris, you mentioned red zone. He's going to be a definite threat in the red zone. I see a lot of teams using him in the slot, in the red zone, almost like an additional tight end, where you run those quick slants. You have those mid yardage plays where you need somebody that's big and solid that's going to get you those yards that you need, especially when it comes down to within the 10-15 yard range, because he's not going to get that separation. He's not going to be that big breakout play guy. I think, to your point, Chris, he's going to be a third round guy, I believe. And he's going to be that red zone threat. He's going to be boomer or bust. He could be a solid producer on the right team that runs the right scheme.
Yep, I agree. Great catch radius. Lands on the right team, like you said.
Yeah, for sure.
Could be gold.
All right. As you guys can already see, these wide receivers are pretty deep this year. It's going to be fun seeing where these guys go. At number 13, Tutu Atwell out of Louisville, 5'9", 165 pounds. He finished with 2,303 yards and 20 touchdowns. What do you guys got on Tutu?
So when I look at Tutu, I think the opposite of what I just said about Surratt. He's fast, but he is small. So he's one of the smaller wide receiver. He's quick. He's got that quick burst speed. He's got that top end speed. He's okay out route running, but I don't think that they're going to use him for that. I think they're going to use him for separation. There's going to be more of the fly route type of wide receiver or just go. And he could definitely get those big plays downfield. His hands are not the greatest, so you got to make sure you throw the ball well, or he's probably not going to get the ball. I think he's going to draw a lot of attention. He's going to force teams to play around him. I think, when you look at a high safety, he's going to draw a lot of those double teams. He's going to have a lot of those, opportunities, but I think he's going to get muscled out with some of the physicality of the defensive backs nowadays. On the flip side, I think he's going to be good as a decoy as well. You look at the decoy, you look at the pass interference, those are a big part of the game, guy. Maybe not so much on the fantasy side, but for a team, those are important yards, and I think he's going to get you those because these DBs are going to be grabbing jerseys trying to keep up with him, right? So as for fantasy, I see him. I don't necessarily see him like the Tyreek Hill type of thing because he doesn't have the route running ability that he does. I think of him more as like a Scotty Miller type player where he could burn you big, but like I said, his hands are questionable. So he's going to be boomer bust. I think he's probably going to be a wide receiver 4 or 5, probably a slot guy, lots of targets downfield. So he could end up being a 20-point guy one day and a 0-point guy the next week. So it is going to be boomer bust for him.
He actually played quarterback in high school, 4-year starter.
He
was
yeah.
An impressive dual threat quarterback. So he had over 4,000 career passing yards, 1,500 rushing yards added to that. So he's very, very versatile. He's a little undersized, which caused a lot of people to think that he's not a good quarterback. So his speed and his athleticism immediately became a huge addition to the Louisville offense. He was immediately a deep threat, and at 18 years old, as a true freshman, he led the team in yards per catch, 16.9. So he was a huge part of that offense as a wide receiver, which wasn't his natural position. So it just shows you how much of an athlete this guy is. He was, this is for Chris, he's a 38.1 college dominator. I don't got to tell you, that's massive. 37% target share. So he's elite at one of the best. He figures to be one of the fastest players in this year's class, but he won't get to like everybody else. He's not going to be able to the wildest scouts at the combine. Apparently, his official 40-yard time is a 4.27. Given that the record is John Ross at 4.22.
That's official.
That's an official. Apparently, that's what I've read up on. 4.27. So, and the record's John Ross at 4.22. So, if he had a combine, he'd probably break it. So, it's going to be really interesting to see his pro day. So, he's a legitimate deep threat on any team that picks him up. And despite his small size, he plays with a physicality that a lot of guys his size don't. He's willing to take on blocks, and he doesn't shy away from contact. Some of the things that are negative that I saw is that he's easily knocked off his route just because of his size. And, sometimes he's just not physically able to match up as willing as he is. Going against a big defender, a big corner, it's just his size hinders him a bit. And drops have been another issue throughout his career. There's multiple examples of him fumbling or just dropping the ball on contact. But I think he's going to be a success in the NFL. I think he would do good on a spot where he wouldn't be the focus, like you said. He'd be a great gadget player for any team. Like, if he ends up on the Chiefs or the Packers or some team like that, he's going to do really well.
All right, yeah. Looking into those 40-yarders that they go, if you look at the guys that are all at the top, the fast guys, unfortunately, they don't always turn into the best wide receivers. Their record is not very good.
Yeah.
So
You can't rely
Well,
solely
that's
on
exactly
John
my point.
Ross.
Well, I mean, you look at somebody that's super fast, like a two-sport athlete, like I mentioned Scotty Miller, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got speed, but he is that guy that's going to be boom or bust. He's going to either break for get separation and hit that 70-yard touchdown play, or he's going to be knocked off his route. And I think that's what's going to happen here. He's gonna have some trouble getting that separation. These guys are gonna bump him. They're going to. I mean, I'm not as high on him as you are, Frank, maybe, but I think that he's gonna be harassed. I think he's gonna be bumped off the line, and there are ways to slow these guys down, right? And because he's not strong enough, I don't know if he's gonna be able to pick up those short yardage plays like some of the other guys that have speed.
100%.
All right, coming in at number 12, Tamorion Terry out of Florida State, 6'4", 210 pounds. His career there, he finished with 2,221 yards, 18 touchdowns. What do you guys have on Terry?
Tamorion Terry is an absolute baller. He's got size, speed, athleticism. He's a freak. He's 6'4", 215. He was measured at 23.4 miles per hour in game. So for us Canadians, it's 37 kilometers an hour. He'd get a speeding ticket on my street. he's got legit 4.4 speed for a guy his size. That's nuts. He broke out during his red shirt freshman season, so he was a little bit old. I think he was about 23, 24. So he's older than a lot of guys you like coming out of college, or out of high school, sorry. 2018 was his breakout year, 2019 was his big monster year. And everybody talked about how bad the Seminoles offense was. That offense as a whole was just basically centered around Terry and Cam Akers. He broke out despite that bad offensive line play, terrible quarterback play, and he was able to get through that and just have a monster year that put him on everybody's radar. He's got a huge, strong frame. He's NFL ready. There's no problem winning versus man coverage, and he's a master downfield. He's great on his double moves and getting open. And his biggest problem is probably just his drops, his concentration, making catches. Sometimes it feels like he's got brick for hands, which could be a problem at the next level. But he does so many things that brings up his upside that he does things that a lot of receivers his size just can't do. And a lot of guys just around where he'll be drafted can't do. So that just makes up for his few downsides, I think. He's great at picking up yards after the catch. He is in his big 2019 year. 611 of his 1187 yards came after the catch. So that's 51% of his yardage came after the catch. And he also broke a tackle on 10% of his catches, which was the top third of all players in the NCAA. He's fantastic when you get the ball in his hands. And I'm going to hit you with an insane stat. He averaged 58 yards per reception on his 9 touchdowns in 2019. And wow. 2020 wasn't his good year. Didn't do anything to help his draft stock. In fact, I think it lowered it. It's just if you look at the numbers, you probably got a lot of questions. He was playing on a bum knee for his first 4 games. He only had he played 6 games total. So after his 4th game, he couldn't handle the pain anymore. So he had to get it cleaned up. He got it cleaned up. He came back right away and basically did nothing those last 2 games, and then he just decided He just said screw it and opted out for the rest of the year, which is probably a good idea because the offense was so bad. Like, in fact, the FSU quarterbacks combined, if you average them out, they ranked 1/10 out of 140 qualified quarterbacks in all of college football in completion percentage. So even if he wanted to play it through the injury, even if he was healthy, there was no way his 2020 would have upped his stock from 2019. He just had such a monster year that year.
Yeah, no, you hit most of all the points there. As you said, in 2020, he was dealing with injuries. He didn't actually opt out of the college football. He actually just left the team, which was very eye-opening for a lot of people. They're not really sure why he left still. Some people said it was due to a coaching dispute that he had with his coaches, but it's still kind of up in the air, so they weren't sure. But, yeah, definitely the injuries didn't help there. But yeah, like you said, he's quick. He's got the yards after catch. He's got the traits to be a legitimate wide receiver in the NFL. But those drops, he's at they recorded him at a 9.1% drop rate on Pro Football Focus. So that's like a crazy amount of drops for a wide receiver, and you don't really want that really. So if he can find a way to fix that up and, make those catches when he gets those chances, and instead of maybe trying to do too much where he's thinking of the next play, what do I got to do next, and he focuses on catching that ball first, it could definitely help him out. His route running, if he could find a way to develop his route running more, make cleaner routes, cleaner cuts, and all of that, he can definitely become into that talk of being a dangerous target in the NFL, which I think is a big step for him. And the only other thing that he could probably fix to be, considered as one of those top guys is he's not usually set on the line. So there's a lot of tape out there where you're seeing they'll hut the ball and he's still stuck on the line, like, oh shoot, we got to start now. So it's just all that mental aspect of it all, that if he can get it changed and he can develop into that type of a player and get that all fixed up. Hopefully his knee injury doesn't, linger and cause other problems down in the future. He can be a big type NFL player if he can find a way to make all that work, and he can definitely go up in the rankings as we have him so low on ours just because of the injury and all the stuff that happened in 2020. But yeah, I could definitely see what you said there and agree.
If he gets a good coach, a good guy, if he's a lot of his negatives are coachable, I believe. So I think he could develop in a couple of years, be a top guy. Like he's just got the physical attributes of a DK Metcalf.
Exactly.
So if he could just work on a few things, he could be something special.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. And number 11, our last wide receiver today, Cadarius Tony out of Florida. 6 foot, 193 pounds, and he finished with 984 yards and 10 touchdowns. What do you guys have on Toney?
So I guess all of these guys are like two-sport athletes because Tony's a two-sport athlete as well. He's track and football. He was a quarterback in his final 2 seasons at high school, and then he transitioned to the wide receiver role. He's a fast dude. He runs something around the 4.45 on the 40. So, he's got some speed. He's not the fastest guy on the field, but he does have some speed. But what's impressive about him is the fact that he is just like dynamic. Like when you see this kid run routes, you're looking at clean routes, you're looking at fast routes. And when he has the ball in his hands, it's like Madden stuff. Like, you see him, he's super elusive. He makes people miss all over the place. And, he could easily be the most dangerous guy on the field with the ball on his hands because people are going to, be falling around him, and he could definitely break big. He's most impressive when he, with his, receiving yards after the catch, because if he's got some space, he's gonna make people look bad out there. So they're gonna double team him, they're gonna try to play him tight. He's a strong, athletic kid. He's smart too. So he has that football IQ that you need. I could see him starting out like as maybe even a return man. He's very versatile. So I see him maybe even a la Tyreek Hill, or even like a Patterson or an Aguilar, maybe like in terms of bringing the ball back or whatever, and finding a nice home within the wide receiving core very, very fast. He's almost one of those guys that you like seeing him with the ball, but if you're really a football fan, you almost want to see him without the ball too, because he can be pretty spectacular even when he doesn't have the ball. The only thing that he has to really work on is his hands. That's one of the things that was a bit of a downfall for him, but he's done a good job on working on making sure he's got those soft hands to take the ball in. But other than that, he's pretty well rounded. He's pretty versatile. I could see him sliding into a starting receiver role even, with a deep roster, using him in multiple positions, and maybe being a WR3 with some versatility attached to it, like I said, with some special teams.
Yeah, all great points. I'm not a big Cadarius Tony guy to begin with. I don't get the Tyreek Hill comparison. I don't think he's that good of a route runner. I don't think he's built like Tyreek Hill. I think if there's one receiver in this class that's the most like Tyreek Hill, it's Rondale Moore. I don't see Cadarius Tony.
I meant the versatility side of it more than anything
okay,
else.
yeah.
So
for me,
side.
I don't. But I've been reading a lot of the Tyreek Hill comparisons and stuff like that. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. In 2019, Cadarius Tony finished 11th in total scrimmage yards on his own team. He had a breakout year last year, but the price you're gonna pay for him based on his ADP, I'm not gonna pay that price. He's gonna be one of those guys that's gonna benefit from getting drafted into one of these good teams, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire did last year, where his draft stock is just going to shoot up, and he's going to be drafted early in rookie drafts, and guys are going to be spending a high amount of draft capital on him, only in the long run to be disappointed. He does show elite footwork. He's got great footwork. He's got some of the best footwork in the class, and his breakaway speed, like you said, Sam, he's fast. But if you're gonna play him in the slots, going against these elite, fast, big NFL linebackers, I just don't think it's gonna work out for him too well. He's not the biggest guy. He's not like the guy we just talked about, Sage Surrett, who is built to play in the middle of the field. Like I said, a lot of talk has him going to KC. KC has been hinting at drafting a wide receiver early in the draft, and Cadarius Tony kind of fits that profile in KC. But to me, instead of a Tyreek Hill, I think he's more like a McCole Hardman, and they already have a McCole Hardman. So as a freshman, a true freshman in the league, in college, he bounced around from running back to wide receiver, so they didn't really know where to use him too much. He was a quarterback in high school. He was a decent quarterback in high school, but I don't see him ending up as anything more than a wide receiver 3 in the NFL, if anything at all.
Well, we'll see. I guess time will tell.
That's it. That's all we can do, right?
What's wrong with two Hardmans though? That's my question. I mean,
Well, one Hardman couldn't get it done. You put two out there, it's going to be the same thing.
Well,
so
we'll see.
I just don't think he has the build for an NFL wide receiver.
He's a little small, but he's also young. He could put on some weight. I think he's got to hit the weight room for sure. Hopefully, it doesn't knock off some of his speed, but with that footwork, I think he's gonna. I mean. If he could cross people up, and I think that's if you have an intelligent QB that could see that happening, he can get him the ball, right? And that's where he's going to shine. So
yeah, and that would be pretty much the only reason I'm going to draft him, is if he ends up on a situation like Green Bay or KC in one of these high-powered offenses where the quarterback can stretch the play. I mean, I would even like to see him on Cleveland, where a quarterback like Baker can move the pocket, stretch the play, and then a guy like Cadarius Tony can use his speed to create space
to break
and get
away.
open. Then something like like that might be a little more viable for him. But again, he is small. It's not easy to put on weight. All you guys say, oh, he'll put on weight.
No, of course.
It's not easy to put on weight. I mean, Florida's got a good weight program, and he hasn't really done it there. For me,
but I think I think he's the most dynamic run after catch, right? So if he can make that space happen, I think he's going to be a hard guy to tackle. Not because he's big, because he can make you miss. Like that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
so,
and speed doesn't always translate to the NFL. We saw what the Bucks did to Tyreek Hill in the Super Bowl. Just 3-man zone him, just shut him down.
Shut him down. Two high safeties.
You can counteract speed in the NFL. It's not that hard to do. You just need some decent defenders, but elite DBs, elite safeties, they're not slow either, right? They got good footwork and they're fast as well. They just don't got the hands to catch the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Or they'd be on the other side, right?
Exactly.
Hey, for the record, it's pretty easy to put on weight. I've been doing it all COVID. Just wanted to.
Not that kind of weight, James. Not that kind of weight.
Okay.
It's a pasta, you're good.
Muscle weight and Chips Ahoy weight is two different things.
You didn't specify. I just figured it was the same one.
Telling me it's hard to put on weight.
If you enjoyed that, I'm going to let you know a little secret. When we get into our next couple of batches of wide receivers, there's definitely going to be a lot of back and forth because we could not agree on this list whatsoever. So we've got a lot of different opinions on who we think is good and who isn't. And you're going to be in for a treat if you continue to tune in after this. So, but that's our show for today. Thank you guys again for listening. Please follow us on Instagram at the Fantasy Football War Room. You can obviously catch us here at YouTube. We're going to be putting out more content. Our next episode, which will drop on Tuesday, will feature the next set of wide receivers, 10 to 6, and any news and any other information that comes out of the NFL. So have yourselves a good night.
Like and subscribe.